Welcome to Brazos Matters. I'm Jay Sokol. Big show today. In fact, it's a special one-hour edition. I think you're going to love this one. August 20th is National Radio Day, and I thought it would be great to assemble right here in the KAMU studios Bryan College Station's most beloved voices and personalities from the past 5, I don't know, maybe 6 decades. But none of those all-time greats were available. So, with us today to talk about the importance of local radio, what it used to be, what it is now, and what the future of it could and should be, are people who have done it very, very well on behalf of this community and others that they have worked in. So, say hello to Texas Radio Hall of Fame inductee Roger WWW Garrett, who, after a high-flying career in Houston, spent most of his remaining radio years at KORA KTAM, but also at Aggie 96 and KTSR. He now plays a killer playlist at his rockjock.fm streaming station. Hey, Roger.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next up, leader of the WTAW Infomaniacs morning show, Scott Delucia. Scott, how many years have you been there?
I've been doing this 52 years.
That is the shortest resume I've ever heard of. One line, 52 years.
Okay.
What an icon. Next, longtime personality, Harold, true son of Elvis Presley. Can you even name all the call letters that you have worked under in this town?
In this town?
Yeah.
I can, but I won't.
Okay. It's a long list?
It's not a long list. I mean, it's like just a few.
Okay.
Well, KTAM. I worked at KORA.
Right.
Aggie 96.
Keep going. You got more? I know you do.
101.9 The Beat.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you work on the Valley?
I did not work on the Valley.
Darn.
Yeah, you know I worked at Aggie, so we worked together there, and
Right.
KTAM.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've been here a while. Been here since 84.
All right. Finally, the nationally recognized, highly decorated morning show duo who has found serious success in Aggieland, then in San Antonio, and now in Houston. We have Katy Dempsey and Tucker Young, known on the air as Frito and Katy. Hey, y'all.
Good.
Hello,
Hey,
thanks
man.
for
How
having
you
us.
doing?
Welcome back to the motherland.
It's good to
Feels
be.
good.
Yeah, very good to be back.
All right, radio people. So
I just want to say, as you list these stations, it sounds like high school football coaches.
You've been everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah,
you guys really have. So when I told Kara that we were going to have this gathering, she said, number one, you're going to have the time of your life. Number two, you will lose control instantly.
Immediately.
So let's prove her right or wrong.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay.
I'll take over now.
So when I say local radio done well, what comes to mind? Roger Garrett, we're starting with you.
Well, of course you are. Local radio done well. Removing all of the barriers.
Okay.
Because I think all of us in this room, the longer we're on the air, the more things that pop up in front of us that keep us from being personalities on the air. So local radio begins without all those barriers. They're just real happy that somebody's going to come do the job, and they're happy that you can do it, and people like you, and they'll listen. But as it progresses, there becomes restrictions that slows you down a little bit.
Right.
But the best part of local radio is that you and your audience know each other very well. How many times have I gotten off the air at 10 o'clock in the morning? I'm at Apple Tree at 10:15, and somebody's either finishing a sentence or asking a question of what they just heard me say on the radio. And that's fun. That's a feeling that's you can't get that anywhere else. So
Harold Presley, how about you?
Well, I agree with everything he just said, and I think one of the main things for me is community involvement, being involved with people in the community, because to them, you're a friend. And you know them long enough, they listen to you and they call you all the time. You see them everywhere. They do become your friends. And I've been there long enough to see that. I mean, I've been there long enough to where I'll go on a store. This happened to me just the other day. And I've been off the air for a couple of years. And I'm in the store, I'm ordering food, and the girl asked me my name, and one of the other people said, "That's Harold Presley." And I said, "Do I know you?" She said, "No, I recognize your voice."
Then you turned around and left.
And to me, I listen to you all the time. I love radio. I usually listen. She started naming things we did on the air, things like that. She actually said, "I've been listening since KTM days," and you remember this, Jay. She said, "I remember you guys used to do Beatles for breakfast."
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You know, that little
That was
feature
fun.
That was fun. And she remembered that. I said, "Wow, okay." So I think being involved with the community is the main thing for me. That's what it's all about.
Scott Delucia, local radio.
Yeah. So when I started, local radio was lost dogs and garage sales.
Oh, I understand that. Mine
Yeah.
was swap shop and
Yeah.
obituaries and hospital admissions and
Sure.
dismissals. Yeah.
And it got to that point, and now we communicate with our listeners in a completely different way. In some ways, less personal because we don't hear their voice. And I remember the discussion we had years ago at WTAW. When do we start taking these things called texts?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we really didn't want to. And over at Candy, they'd been doing texts for a while. They were interacting, but, we had all sorts of demographics, and they weren't doing texts, and phones weren't ubiquitous then that old people could text on. So we loved the voice. And even to this day, we have some callers, but it's not nearly what it used to be. And I miss that a lot.
Yeah. You talk about audience engagement.
Right.
I don't know that anyone has done it better than the two people sitting next to you. So, Katy and Tucker, local radio done well.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. It's fun for me because I listen to you, and you, and so I remember the bits y'all used to do, and again the interaction. A lot of the stuff was my intro to radio, and I don't think that at least when we were here, we were really departing that much from what everyone had done as really good local radio in Bryan College Station. We were trying to be as community involved as we could. We were trying to interact with the audience as much as we could. And I think we were doing it because that's just the way we were allowed to do it. I think as far as markets that I'm aware of in the United States, TV and radio, Bryan College Station has been pretty unique where people have been able to really do amazing product here.
Yeah.
Most of the people just kind of leave you alone to create. And, I think that's helped a lot over the years. Is just working with a bunch of really good people that really loved radio. And you can create brands that really connect in a special way with the audience when everybody involved with them is as passionate about it as they are here.
And I don't want to inflate his ego because he is not here, but Ben Downs is responsible, I think, for a lot of my career and probably Frito's
for sure.
as well.
Yeah.
But like Frito mentioned about just the influence of everyone in this room, when I was at Bryan Broadcasting, I'd come from Houston. And so I was thinking, I'll just go do full time in this little market for 2 years. And I'll come back and I'll be a star. And then I found out what radio could do and how it could touch people's lives and how you could get more involved. And you're talking about the things that are interesting to them or that are affecting them. And you're talking about the charities that they love and that they want to support. And that's just so important. And I ended up staying for a decade.
Yeah.
Whoops. Before we left for San Antonio. And in every market we've been in since, we've been trying to inject that into these bigger markets. There's a lot of pushback, honestly, because there are some groups that would rather have like a copy and paste type setup for radio, and you'll hear it with syndication. They'll put someone in that really never says anything specific enough to where they aren't for sure local. I mean, maybe they're here, maybe they're not. We're going to keep everybody guessing. And so we've tried to make everything just hyper local. And that's where we've found a lot of success.
The bummer about it is I really think that when you think about the best local radio, it scales horribly, right? So if you're looking at it from a business perspective, it might not be the best business decision to do what you really need to do to run a really vibrant, community-oriented radio station. But the other side of this is this is not a complete business operation. There is a mandate that we have to serve the community, and I think that I'm sure you guys would agree. The majority of where all of this came from was having to honor that mandate, because there have always been cheaper ways of doing it than having a bunch of full-time people being paid to be in the community, create, pick the music, figure out what to talk about.
Garage sales.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, loved them.
But I think that there's still a lot of groups and people that are passionate about it. It really is a lot fewer and farther in between. And I was surprised how many times you'd have to explain the importance of things like getting out of the studio and bringing bringing groups in that work in the community and try to like amplify their message
For free.
For free. Well, why would you do that? You can charge them.
Yeah.
So, well, why would we charge them? We could do it for free.
Yeah.
It's good content.
You could build
I need it.
relationships and grow those over time. And public service would be the other one for local radio, because when there's a disaster, the flooding, the Central Texas flooding, radio is really the only medium that can stop and pivot and get out the information as quickly as it needs to be disseminated.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned Ben Downs, and I think it's worth talking about him a little bit more, because every single one of us has worked for Ben in some form or fashion, and we've been involved with community outreach. That's a hallmark of those stations that Bill Hicks and Ben Downs have been in charge of. Are there specific events or initiatives that really stick with you in terms of connecting with the community that worked out really well? What I mean is helping the people who's intended to help, but illustrates the importance of local radio. And that's an open question to all of you.
I'll say this. For me, in the 80s, when I moved here, and Ben was the one that hired me, we started this thing. He decided we were going to go somewhere locally, remotely, set up and broadcast from there for a few days and raise money for toys.
Yes.
The thing was called Radio Mash. Now, when we first did it, I remember the first one, it was cold. It was freezing cold. It wasn't set up like it is now. We had a tent. We had both radio stations inside the tent together. And we had turntables out there, people. Turntables. Those are things with vinyl.
And cart machines.
And cart machines.
Right.
The turntables froze.
Yeah.
We couldn't play the music wouldn't play. And then the cart decks, they got cold. So we had to have heaters to heat those things up. But it was great because people still came out.
Yeah.
It was awesome because they came out, people bringing toys out, that the kids had toys they didn't touch, and they were donating them to go to a underprivileged child, that kind of thing. That to me stood out. I had never been around anything like that ever, and it was just great. And it's still going on this day. So
They took the control board out of the production room, ripped it completely out of the counter to take it out there. We had a party time pop-up tent. After it rained and it turned into Mudville out there. Then they said, "Hey, let's get some hay and put it on the ground." So
High tech.
we did that. The news department brought out the teletype machine.
Yes, that's right.
And all of this was happening at the Post Oak Mall, right at the corner of Harvey Road and the bypass, and it was at a slant like this, like it's leaning. Like if you dropped your pen, it's going to roll into Harvey Road, and so you try not to drop your pen. And somehow all of that worked.
Yeah.
It worked. It was awesome. It was great.
Scott, what's on your mind?
Ben did that at another radio station. That was before Brian Broadcasting.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he started with the same group that is the ownership of Brian Broadcasting, but he went over to KORA, put that together, and it was clear that was gold. Absolute lightning in a bottle. I mean, it still exists today, not exactly the same, but the fact that Ben was willing to do whatever it took. I didn't know they pulled the board out and took it out. I didn't know they took the machine out there for the news guy to read. But that's the way Ben is. That's the way Ben was. And Ben's always been that way whenever he got an opportunity while he was still a student at A&M and working for us. I mean, big frizzy hair and didn't look nearly as distinguished as it does now, but big frizzy hair. But he always had some kind of a strange idea he wanted to do. I can't. Number of times he'd walk out of my studio, I'd go, "That guy's weird." But he came from Hope, Arkansas, that gave us Bill Clinton. So what do you want?
There it is, right there.
But he's so connected, and I have to say that he built around him people who wanted to do that exact same thing and continue that. And it didn't matter if it was something that happened in East Texas. You know what? These two folks over here, what Frito and Katy would do on a heartbeat was I would watch the parking lot fill up time and again with their listeners responding to something because they went in with an idea and said, "Let's engage." Yeah. And our company was able to, but it was because Bill Hicks and Ben Downs wanted to engage. And other companies come in and they buy up radio stations and you lose that. I am so happy that I work for a company still today in 2025 that will do that. I hear that, I mean, you guys are talking about major markets. You have pushback on the idea of we want to be engaged in the community. I'm still that way as much as we can be. And that's the best feeling, that I can still feel local radio in 2025.
It's not a fight.
Not at
for
all.
you to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely the ones that come to mind were MASH, Angels, because we did Christmas Angels for many years.
Which actually,
was,
we're taking that idea and we're doing that in Houston.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
With the Pelchins Children's
Oh,
Center.
wow, that's
Great.
fabulous.
So with foster kids and kids that are in their program.
the one that we'd probably go on all day if we talked about the ones that Brian
Brazos Valley
Broadcasting.
Gives?
So the Brazos Valley Gives is an extremely special one.
like
that
talking about Ben Downs having crazy ideas. We went to him, and it is Brazos Valley Gives, because
Yeah.
it was different in San Antonio, and we kept calling them the wrong things. But for Brazos Valley Gives, we thought a great idea would be to get all of the participating charities. The first year it was 108, and interview all of them and air all of their interviews on the day of Brazos Valley Gives from
Do
6
you hear
to
what
6.
do you hear what she just said?
Yeah.
We're going to do
It was a terrible idea. It was a terrible idea.
No, it wasn't. It
was
really
terrible.
It is one where I think that was a really special one for us, because it was something that would really only happen. It would only happen
There.
Yeah, it Candy 95 and the stations.
You
we
tell
were at.
someone now and they look horrified.
Yeah,
They're like, I'm sorry,
like
you
grew
did
3
what?
heads. But
How many people?
But I'll say this is the thing that I thought was special about just kind of the way the business works, and you kind of come after the people that you come after, and you inherit a little bit from all of them. In no universe, I think, would either of us have turned out to be how we are, or see radio or media how we do, if it wouldn't have been for the totality of the people who did this, like you guys.
Yeah, the
who came
building and the
before.
market.
And
Yeah.
that goes for Ben, for Bill, for all of you. It really did make us who we were, and what it gave us what we value most, I think, in the business.
But in the people too, because if you invest in them, then they invest in you. And I loved when I came to town, to College Station, I saw a sticker for Candy 95, and then I noticed them everywhere. Candy was everywhere. And then the more I got involved with the station, the more I started to see KORA everywhere. And so there was so much competition and so many great radio stations in such a small town. I don't think people really realize what we have here, which is incredible.
And all the things that you guys have just talked about, a Spotify playlist can't do that.
No.
Right? And so I'm curious, what are your own listening habits? Because we've got at least one who has an internet radio station, at least one who's doing a podcast. What are your own listening habits right now? Don't stare at me.
My own listening habits?
Yeah, tell me, Roger Garrett.
Like on the Rock Jock station, or well, that's pretty much what I'm listening to anyway.
Okay.
Okay, I never cared about 80s rock in the 80s.
I was all about it.
To me, rock was the 70s. And you got to 80s, it was just a bunch of sissy men. And I'm like, what is this? But now that I've had 45 years or so to get used to it, I really like 80s rock a lot. 1984, an incredible year for rock and roll. So I listen to that, and I still listen to a lot of 70s, but I get super interested in who was influenced by what. So I may find out who the original artist was, or I may find out the genre that music came from, and all of a sudden I'm mixing that into everything else I'm playing at the same time. Whipping Post, Allman Brothers. I actually found a better version of that song by Taj Mahal. And so I thought, hey, I'm in charge. There's no salespeople here. So I just played Taj Mahal. And so that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Love the blues, lots of different kind of blues, and the root of blues, where it came from. It's the influence of everything there is. And so that's what I listen to.
Okay. Harold, what about you?
Well, I listen to a lot of things, a lot of different music, because I used to play music. I was a music major my first year in college, so I tell people I listen to classical music too. People say, "What?" Yeah, I do. I listen to everything.
Okay.
And but as far as just being entertained, I tell you what, I will. Brian Broadcasting's got a station over there now that I listen to since it came on the air, Magic 97.3. I listen to them. I like that music.
Okay.
Because it's what I was trying to get the last station I was at to do. I was trying to get them to move that direction with the music, and that's exactly what they're doing over there. This is really good. I like this R&B, and it's really it was really good. But then again, like Roger was saying, I like 70s rock and roll too. I will promote this TV show that I watched on HBO. It's called Duster, and their music was awesome. They played 70s rock music it was all these great songs from the 70s were all through that show, and that was one of the reasons I used to love listen to that, or to watch the show, just to listen to that music. But yeah, I listen to all kinds of stuff. It just depends on what my mood is, and I don't have just one specific kind of music I listen to. And no, just because I'm black, I don't just listen to black.
Wait,
what was going to be considered black music? I want to make that clear.
You are a black man? When did that happen?
No. I've been in radio. I will say this: we're talking about the radio, and I'm in it long enough to where there was no social media when I first started. There wasn't any of that, so people didn't know what you look like. And I vividly remember the first time I did a remote, and you're doing a remote somewhere, and I go out there. I'd been in radio a couple of years, and broadcasting. I'm doing the break, and I could see this female looking at me. She's staring. She's going like that. And I finish. She comes over. She wants to say, "Hi, are you Harold?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, I'm blah blah blah." I don't remember her name was, but she used to call every day. She would call me and request a song, same song usually. She said, "Oh, I didn't know what." Yeah,
Go ahead.
I didn't know you were. And at the time, I had a head full of hair and I had glasses. Okay, I wore glasses. So I wasn't gonna make it easy for her. I was gonna say, "What? You didn't know I wore glasses?" She said, "No, I didn't know you were. No, what? I didn't know you were black." I said, "Oh, it's not a dirty word. You can say it. It's all right." She said, "But you don't sound like what? This is the way I talk. So I kind of, I talk like this in regular life. No matter, I don't have a certain." She said, "Well, yeah, I see that now, but it doesn't matter. I still like you." Okay. And it was great. It was just awesome. It was great because she was embarrassed, but she still would call every night after that. It didn't matter to her, but she was surprised. I love that mystery of radio that we don't have that anymore.
Right.
Everybody knows pretty much everything about you now.
Yeah.
They can find out about you. So.
Scott, you listening to terrestrial radio, or what are you doing? Podcasts?
Of course, Roger mentions the 80s. Well, I was bringing children into the world at that point. I had to stop listening at that point. I do, of course, have a podcast of the best of Rush Limbaugh that I listen to every day.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
No, when it comes to music, I have a good solid 17 songs on my Spotify.
That's a good list.
Good solid
Good
17.
rotation.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Your favorite always comes up.
You bet. No, I do. I listen to podcasts sometimes, but more and more I'm finding short podcasts. I don't want to sit through an hour of much of anybody anymore. And Joe Rogan is on for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I listened to his interview with Elon Musk, even though it was 3 hours and 20 minutes, just because I wanted to hear what Elon Musk had to say for that long. That's really interesting stuff. But I have to say I'm getting pretty boring when it comes to what I listen to now. So my 17 songs, and I'm good.
How many hours do you talk for on the radio?
And then I talk 3 hours. Oh, yeah, then there's that.
So you listen to the sound of your own voice.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
I think honestly, I think there's something to that. Like if you do 3 to 4 hours a day of content, I really enjoy not having any sound come at me when I'm in the car. I will listen to podcasts, I'll listen to other things, but the idea of just driving in silence is so underrated. And I don't think I think to an average person that makes you a sociopath, but when you've been sitting here just sound, screens, things, you listen to things differently, and it just becomes, you hate to say it becomes work, but it becomes work.
Well, sure it does.
It's like working at a pizza place. It just kind of ruins ruins the sauce for you.
I remember when I was still doing morning radio, and I would come home and Kara would have the radio on and I would turn it off. And she would look at me like, "What are you doing?" And I hear it all day.
This is work.
I don't want to. Yeah. What are you listening to, Katie?
Well, I'm upset by this revelation because I didn't really know that. Because on our way home, we've just been talking for 5 hours. I just call him. and then I continue whatever we're talking about in the studio. So
A conversation
Sorry,
is different.
my bad.
No,
My
a
bad.
a conversation is different.
now I know.
That is completely. That's the other fun thing about. I guess one of the ways the business has changed over the years. I don't know. I guess y'all would probably. You definitely would. How did they make up morning shows back in the day? Was it because today I feel like the idea that they'll go with is just grab two people and throw them at each other. And I feel like that used to be less common, or maybe it wasn't. How did this go?
Usually started, in my experience,
Yeah.
usually started with one person that's going to do the show, and then gradually they'll say, well, we need a news person, and they'll put a news person in there, and so that person's boring, and so you get rid of them. And
Hold it. I'm sitting right here.
eventually you find somebody you have some rapport with that doesn't freak out if you ask them a question right in the middle of the newscast, because they usually don't like that. Or you suddenly start describing what they're wearing, which I always love to do. And it kind of throw them off. And then you'd get a sports guy, and then eventually you would end up with someone like the two of you, where you had a male female in the room, and all these other people kind of spun off of that. So it grew. They didn't start as one unit.
Did you find that shows generally would move together or operate as a single unit? Because that's almost gone away completely. Like, that was something that I was surprised about, because we operate pretty much as we're a show. I can't think of another one that's out there right now that does that.
Why in Houston there were some that came like Tim Tuttle.
Yeah.
And Kevin, they came.
They
together.
came as a package deal back in the 90s.
Yeah, Tim and Kevin came together,
Yeah.
but I think it kind of died down in the 2000s, 2010s.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and you can do it in a bunch of different ways. I've thought that's a fun part about us, is that we actually are legitimately two friends that do a radio show. We never really had to do the chemistry thing or try to do the suss out thing. We can talk to each other on the phone on the way home, and it's like,
Well,
life.
one of us can. Verdict's still out on the other one. I think I do the majority of the talking.
Probably so.
But for me, I listen to radio, whatever market I'm in. I make my children listen to radio. I don't have Spotify. I do have Pandora. And when a commercial comes on and my children go, advert, because my husband is British, I tell them how important commercials are, and that's why mommy has a job. And so we will always listen to commercials.
Good for you.
Before we leave morning shows,
Yeah.
we do our show in 3 different studios and don't see each other.
And very well.
And thank you. The idea of not having eye contact, and when I interview people and they come in, I say, I'm talking to you, and I may not be looking at you, but just understand, I'm listening to what you have to say. But we ended up really needing to be able to listen to people. Tell a quick story as to how that happened. I was doing a show called The Muck and Meyer Show, just 2 of us. I was the young guy who was 25 years old and knew everything. Joe Monroe was the guy who I worked with. He was about 50 at the time. Joe suffered a stroke. And so he's off the show for about a week, and then they put him in the old Bryan Hospital, if you remember where that is, just down from St. Joseph. They put a Marty unit. That's a remote transmitter, folks.
What's that?
This thing would come on at
You can't even die in radio.
Yeah, exactly. This little thing he would turn on at 2 minutes till 6, and we would do 3 hours. Now, we played music back then, but what I learned I had to do was listen to him. I had to learn his voice, had to learn the way that he spoke so that we weren't trampling all over each other. And it's nice to be able to have that. And we've done good and bad in our morning show with the different combinations we've had, some better than others, but we really, it's difficult because my news and sports people have other responsibilities at other stations. And so they would drop out, go do their thing, and then come back to me. But having to listen and learn the meter of that person's voice so that you can dive in, know exactly when to hit the button to go to the commercial, whatever, is more difficult because we had no IQs.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that most listeners will never understand, how much goes into just how much you have to know the other person, or at least be comfortable with them, and you kind of have to start thinking alike, even because it's a lot of different things coming at you a long time. I've never understood how y'all did the 3 different rooms. It's insane.
One of the things that works now, and it's one of those things you think, how in the world did we do it before that? But now we text during the show, and I'll say, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then it does, okay, I know, secret's over. It's not quite as organic as it sounds, but quite often it is. We don't get to the bits that we were going to or the subjects that we were going to, but we are at least able to communicate. And it makes me think, when I was working with Tom and Jay, how in the world did we do that?
Yeah.
I mean, how did we communicate?
Yeah. Well, you would run down the hall and you would scribble something and throw it in front of me. But, you talk about us not having line of sight, whether it's you, me, and Tom, or Roger and me.
Yeah.
It just became natural. Like it didn't seem like an anomaly. It just worked because we had the choreography worked out. Now, Roger would interrupt me all the time just to mess with me.
Yeah.
But, there's something kind of magical about that sort of setup. Going to kind of reset things here. If you just tuned in, I'm Jay Sokol. You're listening to Brazos Matters. It's a special 1-hour edition in honor of National Radio Day with some of my all-time favorite radio people, Roger WWW Garrett, Scott Delucia, Harold Presley, and Katy Dempsey and Tucker Young, a.k.a. Frito and Katy. So how have audiences and maybe their expectations changed over time, in your opinion? Let's start with our duo over here.
I don't know.
Well, I'm so young.
They haven't changed it yet.
Oh, they're the exact same.
Honestly, I think that I don't know they've changed as much as people like to believe they've changed. And here's what I mean. I think our audience is more fragmented. Yes, you have so many options. They're going to be smaller, and that's fine. But the way people listen, I really think it's interesting, and how we all get so much in our heads about how to create a radio station, and the way we all kind of decide to do it, it feels like it's like we'll try to narrow it down and focus it. We've always found that people respond to way more than anyone believes that they would. I remember going to San Antonio, and neither of us had done, we had all been top 40 like DJs for pretty much our entire careers. And we had done country stuff, but we had never been on a country, programmed country stations, but never hosted shows on country radio stations. And there was an everyday discussion about, like, y'all aren't country enough. You need to do this to be more country. You need to do that to be more country. If you don't talk about the artists' wives in first name basis, they're not going to think you're country. How are you going to fit into their country lifestyle? And we were just doing the same show we did in College Station, just basically being us. And all of a sudden, people responded to it. And this was about 6 months of consternation about, why are people responding to this? Y'all aren't country enough for people to be responding. And I don't know if it ever soaked in for some of the people that were consulting us, that it's all the same people at this point. It's all the same audiences. There are some differences here and there. Like, I don't think someone who necessarily listens to WTAW might jump over what's the AM? It's only WTAW, right?
What
do y'all share with NPR a lot? Is like a little crossover there?
Yeah, we just have lunch together now and then.
I think people like entertaining. I think people like authentic. I think people like connected. I think people like something that feels real. And if you give that to them in a lot of different forms or fashion, you'll probably connect with most people, despite all the differences that it may look like they have on the exterior.
All the confusion from everyone else as to how is this working. But like we were talking about local radio, they want to know what's going on in their community. They want to know, hey, what's the big concert this weekend, or what events are coming to town that maybe you have tickets to. Like, everything's so expensive right now. If you want to go to an experience like a Jurassic Quest in Houston, that's hundreds of dollars, right? So if we're giving away family 4-packs, well, suddenly everybody's very interested. They all want to win. People talk about the audience not being there for radio. And granted, yes, we have a lot of competition for ears, right? You really have to put something together that's special and that's thoughtful. And I think the more work you put into it, or the relationships you have with the people that you're working with, the better it's going to be. I mean, you serve the people listening, and so long as you continue to do that, I think they'll continue to show up. And like Harold was mentioning earlier, just being that friend, that confidant, I think people still want that, especially where mornings are concerned, where they're driving to work, they're stressed, they're tired, they might have had a really bad night, they're alone, and suddenly they're joining a conversation that's bigger than themselves, right? So they get to weigh in, they get to hear other people's problems, and suddenly might put theirs into perspective. It's a really special thing, and I think radio is one of the last mediums that offers that interactive engagement.
The best thing I can think of in terms of, like, if radio and media in general wanted to improve, if we could just start looking outward and seeing how many people we could bring into a product instead of narrowing it down to, like, the exact person, you start offering more, find reasons reasons to say yes to things, find reasons to connect with other audiences that you don't think are necessarily yours, because you might be surprised,
Yeah.
extremely surprised.
We frequently are.
Yeah.
Like, why we still have jobs.
Yeah.
Scott, you tell me, how have audiences changed in their expectations?
One of the best contests we ever did was we gave away season tickets to A&M football, basketball, and Opus.
Whoa.
When
Yeah.
was that?
Yeah, and we said this is a good package.
That's back when I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was great. To get registered, we would just open. All right, 10 minutes. Next 10 minutes, your name, your phone number, and what
do you
do
do?
for a living.
That's right.
And that was an eye opener in a market I'd already worked in for 15 years. Going, wow. So
that was harvesting some data right
yes,
there.
sir. We would get a guy who was doing ground maintenance at A&M and a guy who was an assistant VP at A&M in the same call.
Yeah.
Call break.
Yeah.
So we learned a lot about who it was then. I say that to say now, for my radio station, it's difficult to harvest younger listeners. Simply because they're not critical thinkers. They don't care what we're talking about. Everybody who's on my show, well, when we first started, when you and I were working together, and Tom was there, we were married, we had children, we were paying mortgages and taxes.
Right.
That was important to a whole lot of people. Well, you know what? That's not the group anymore. There are a lot of people who aren't some of those things. And so being able to bring them under the tent to listen to what we have to say is difficult to do, and I don't know that I have an answer for it. So all I can say is we continue to march in that direction. You'll age into our format, if you will, probably won't age out of it. So we have I think that's the challenge I have right now. So overall, my audience, I believe, has gotten younger. Has gotten older, and it's hard to bring in the younger ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Harold, you have a sense of audience changes, expectations?
Well, the change is the right word. I don't want to say it's better or worse or anything like that. It's just different now than it was when I first started radio, big time. And before, because then everything was live. When I first, every shift was live, and it's a very intimate media.
Yeah.
Radio is, because when somebody's listening to you at night, they could be in their bedroom, sitting there reading a magazine or whatever, listening to you, and you were like right there with them,
Right.
and you're their friend. You're my friend, and I listen to you every night.
And you're dependable.
And
you're always there.
You're always there. You're going to tell me what's going on. Now you don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Because of social media, because they can get informed other ways. They can get information other ways. I remember being on air my first couple weeks. I was on a very short time, and this doesn't happen. You don't get this from radio anymore. You can get it from other places. But I was on the air when John Lennon got assassinated. Nobody knew that then, because you didn't get that from the television instantly. Because the reason I knew it came over and you guys know what AP wire is. It came over the AP wire.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
an alarm that came over. I went to get it, pulled it off, and I went, what? I need to talk about this on the air. Do I need to call my program director? What do I do? So I called him up. He said, yeah, go on the air with it. Okay.
What market was this?
This is in Nacogdoches.
Okay.
Key Radio, 12-3 Key. Never forget the call list, because you had to enunciate, because they were K-E-E-E, because you had to enunciate those letters.
You couldn't just squeal
No.
like a pig.
That's what it sounded like.
Don't garble the call letters.
Always a good thing. Always a good thing.
Don't do that. But I remember giving that information over the air, and the phones lit up. People were listening, man. They were listening. I said, people are really listening, And they said, what did you just say? And I told them what it was. And I, playing Lennon songs, playing some Beatles stuff, that kind of thing. And every 10 minutes or so, I go talk about it again, that type of thing. That kind of thing that's no more. And not in radio. You get it on the morning shows, because the morning shows, almost all of them are live, or in some market, a lot of markets are syndicated, but they do the syndicated shows live. But still, you're not locally. But these guys, and your show is live, and over Brian Broadcast, they do live shows, and so you still get that immediacy. I think that immediacy that is gone. It's different. It's not bad or worse. It's just different. That's the main thing I'll say.
Well, in my experience, nobody got into the heads of listeners and was in tune with audiences more or better than Roger Garrett. So what do you sense in terms of audience changes and maybe changes in expectations.
If you've got people talking to you, they're texting everybody else. They're going to give you their undivided attention. They're going to be interested in you if you're giving them something to be interested in. If you sound like you're having the same misery or the same happy that they are, the verbs and nouns don't really matter. What matters is the emotional touch. And what also matters is that you want that. You want to talk to that person because you're in the studio and you're isolated and you've got something to say, and you get somebody to call you on the phone, and all of a sudden you're in a conversation and you have their undivided attention. They'll be there every day after that. That's why I'm saying if they're talking to you, they're texting everybody else.
The best is when they would say, I never do this. I have never called into a radio station before, but
You get that.
we do. Yeah.
I like
We also get young listeners. When we give away prizes, we'll put in their information. A lot of them are new. They're not in the database, and a lot of them are in their early and late 20s.
I think it's infinitely more challenging, and it's going to get more challenging every single year because, again, the amount of options people have. But I really think that the thing that we do well is what you talked about, just trying to connect with other people through the medium and bring them in. I mean, as many calls as you can get, talk about as many things as you can talk about that actually happen in people's lives. And talk like a regular person and genuinely listen to people when they call in to participate.
Especially if they're a first-time caller. There are so many people that talk at people, and they're not listening to what they're saying, and they're trying to rush them off the phone. Well, then why did you ask them to call? Like, I mean, I'm sorry, how much time do we have? Like, let them go.
And that is anticlimactic. A lot of people, faster. But I think, again, you lose the opportunity at a lot of things if you try to rush things that shouldn't be rushed. And a lot of times, I think, as an industry, we've tried to synthesize all the way past kind of the magic. And yeah, we still draw people that are in their teens, 20s, and a lot of them are new to the radio station, new to radio in general. But if you continue to just be real with them and give them something that like you said, feels like they feel and also feels special, I think you can still have, to some degree, that relationship where you can still be that friend in wherever they are, whenever they need to pop it on.
And also, if you let them talk longer, sometimes they do end on a joke. And they kind of do your work for you.
Yeah. Not as good as
right?
Scott.
So
not as good as Scott.
We get a lot of content from them.
I've never seen someone punch out on jokes harder than him, and that's anywhere. So he's it's a real pleasure, and I don't think this is the thing that I'll be really sad if we lose this element of it. I know you will too. If it's just us yapping at each other, it's really not fun anymore for either of us. And
we're talking about ourselves exclusively, not in an attempt to get other people to call in and talk about their lives. If we just end with, let me tell you this story about this thing I saw over the weekend.
Because we could easily, and they're great podcasts. We could easily sit here and do a podcast. Yeah. The fun thing is the immediacy for us. And the fun thing is the connection and the community that you create. And that was always what I enjoyed about listening to radio. That's what I've always enjoyed about doing radio. And I hope we can hold on to that for as long as we can until someone pries it out of our cold, dead hands. Who knows when that'll be.
So talk to me about AI.
Oh, Lord, don't.
Why? Oh,
do you want to talk? Do you want to have this conversation?
Sure. Take a deep breath.
Are you sure you're talking to us?
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking to at least some of you.
Yeah.
So
the only people that like AI are consultants.
Yeah.
People that sell AI.
People that are selling AI.
Or selling you on the fact that they know AI.
And before that, these same people, under different names, were saying, "Oh, do you think maybe we could get away with just voice tracking a couple of shifts?" And before that, it was, it's the same old thing. That no one who does this with the idea of quality in mind likes AI. And the audacity that you get from people to say, well, you know what you should do? You should just get on board with it and use it and use it and use it because that's where it's headed. That's where it's headed. It's not good quality.
No.
It's not good quality.
And if you say it doesn't work, what do they say? They say, oh, well, that's your fault. You don't know how to write a good prompt.
Yeah. I'll say this. We were having a conversation today because this is conference season, and in any given conference season, what you'll have people go pay good money as radio people, and they will never hear a thing about radio. What you'll hear is, here's how you can make AI work for you. Here's how you can make the algorithm work for you. Here's how you can get more and more with less and less and less, and here's what you need to do. And now they've transitioned into, and now here's how to get a side hustle, because none of this stuff is
because
what's
if you do all of
important.
that, you'll lose your job.
Yeah.
And you'll need a side hustle.
The truth is, to people that want to create content, is you need to choose where you put that content. You can't work for everybody at the same time. I will live and die by what we do on the radio.
This is work.
This is what we
It's
do.
work. It sounds fun, but it's work. I mean, doing these bits, hosting all these interviews, and being so
Forums,
informed
yeah.
as you are, Scott. I mean, that's work, and it's a lot longer than the 4 hours that people hear us on the radio.
And I have genuinely no idea how, after all of these years and the dilution and the dilution and the dilution of what is one of the great magic connections of American society over the last 100 years, we're still listening to people saying that, yeah, you can do this cheaper or with less effort or less investment, and it's going to be just the same, because it doesn't really require any talent, right? It's just... It is always going to be a labor of love if it's going to be done well. And my hope is that there are still going to be people that love doing it. If it gets to the point where the only way that it's going to work for people financially is AI, it's just going to be, you may as well just dark everything. There's no point.
Right.
Let's talk about that for just a second.
Okay.
Roger, what was the first radio job you had? How old were you?
Well, let's see. First radio job I had,
What was your first shift? What was your first air shift?
middays,
Really?
I think.
I
No,
start-
afternoons.
No. I did
Wow.
6 to midnight on
Wow.
Sunday.
Yeah,
That's a
well,
job.
no,
Yeah.
you don't
Sunday.
understand. It's afternoons on an AM daytimer in Henderson, Texas.
Yeah.
And I had to drive 30 miles to get there, 30 miles back home, and I think I worked about 6 hours a week, and I didn't even know they paid me.
The problem is
that
there's-
wasn't even in the conversation.
There's no farm team now.
No,
There's no place. Look, Bryan, Texas was a little bitty place when I got to work there when I was 19 years old. And you're on from 6 to midnight. So if you screw up, nobody's listening. It doesn't matter. And you earn your time in a better shift. And that's all going away. That's all going away.
Yeah.
So as much as we all want this to continue, if you're not building a farm team, you'll never get to the bigger market.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it's going away. As the youngest person on this panel, which is not offensive because I'm just the youngest person on the panel.
No offense
Radio,
taken.
radio. We don't. Not that it's not sexy, but we try to push people actively out of radio. We go into these conferences and we talk about all the terrible things about radio, and we never celebrate what's so great about it and what brought us all in the first place. And we place such emphasis on social media. Can I tell you that we're terrible on social media? Like, we were #1 in San Antonio, and I don't know that we ever posted anything.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I absolutely hate it. We give all of our time and attention to the show. If we've got good content, it's for the show.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't save things to then put online to an audience that might not be listening to us in the
there's
morning.
only so many hours in the day, and I do think that no one hates radio like radio people,
Yes.
which is unfortunate. And yes, try to do as much as you can, get your content out there and everything like that. But there's the way that content is disseminated when it's an actual radio show is different than how it's disseminated in a stream and social or whatever. And I think that there are people that are still passionate about that, or would be passionate about it if we reached out to them and offered them jobs. Now, the problem is, are there any jobs to give them? Do you have people that are willing to fill out the paperwork for interns even? I don't know that there's that much
Well,
tolerance
class credit,
for that.
I think they still need.
You could still, yeah.
So,
But it is frustrating because the amount of people that used to be something you could almost take for granted, that you would always have people that would be looking to get into the business and you could coach them up and get them ready. You really have to look for them now, and it's because everyone got away from that for about 10 or 15 years,
Right.
and now we reap the results.
So like Scott said, there's no farm team.
Yeah.
No.
And I remember when I first got in radio, and I was in college, and I was in an acting class with a guy. He was on the air, and some of you might know Kevin Minitry. he's down in Houston, and he's got does voice work down there. And I went to school with him, and he said, you should come up here and apply for a job. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I didn't want to be. I said, no, I can't do that. But he talked me into it. Went up there, got hired, worked 2 a.m. They worked 4-hour shifts, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. And I was going to school, and I'd go to class 8 o'clock in the morning. I never slept, and I loved it. It was awesome. And like you say, you work. He liked what I was doing. He moved me to the 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., which was a big step up for me.
Yeah,
that was a big step. But to
your mom got to listen.
Yeah, but to learn how to work the board, I came in on Sunday. And I read Casey Kasem's American Top 40, up those records, and put the commercials in between them. That's how I learned to work the board. You don't have to do any of that. You don't get to learn how to work the board, how to work the equipment, how to do this and do that, because you don't have that anymore. Yeah. You just jump in and you're not prepared for it.
Well, do you remember when people would show up to the radio station, or my sister was a diehard 104 fan in Houston, and she loved Adam Smasher, and she actually would go up and try to stay outside the studio to try and see Adam Smasher and ask about the Backstreet Boys, and it was her and like a whole gaggle of girls. And people used to think that was such a cool experience. It was so much fun because radio was fun. Yeah. And now all you ever hear is radio's dying. It's been dying for my entire life, right? And yet here I am, and I still have a job. So I think if we just talked about it in better terms, as people in the industry, you'd have people that are more interested in joining it. TikTok is the perfect example because they're telling stories. Those are the people that maybe you could tap to get on the radio. But why would they do that if they think that they can make money easier doing what they're already doing than have to go and slug it in radio where it's like, well, am I going to have a job tomorrow? Because I don't want to do that.
There's still creative people out there. I think you do have to reach out to those people in a different way. And sometimes you have to bring them in. You have to take the content for what it is. You can't just take someone who's giving you what they want to give you and then say, that way you did it? Yeah, that's completely wrong. Don't ever do it that way again. I'm just going to pummel you until you agree. And, I think there's still opportunities to get a good amount of the next generation in, but I think it does take a really active role, and that takes time. And will anyone have the energy to do that? We'll see. It is going to be interesting to see where we go in another 10 years.
So Katy and Tucker are killing it in Houston. I think it's safe to say they'll be doing this for a long time. And so I'd like to spend the final few minutes, we have just under 6 minutes here, on this special National Radio Day show, allowing Roger and Harold and Scott to share their best advice for these two. I would love to hear what you have to say. So, Harold, let's start with you.
Well, my advice is keep doing what you're doing. You said, and I can tell you guys love the industry, and you love keep in touch with the listeners out there, and you're real good at that sort of thing. And as long as you have a love for what you do and you love it, you're going to be successful. And people will feel that, and they'll know that. And to them, we've said before through the first 45 minutes that we've been talking, 50 or so minutes, about how you touch the listener and you're their companion, you're part of their lives. They see you, they say, hey, Frito, how you doing? I listened to you this morning. I liked what you were talking about Katy, And I think as long as you keep that love there, and I can tell you guys, I can feel how you guys, especially you, Katy, you're really passionate. You're very passionate.
Do you know what's funny? I always tell people, many take my passion as aggression.
Yes. I don't think it is aggression.
I'm just very passionate. I'll fight for this industry.
But I can tell you're very passionate.
Okay, let's move to Roger Garrett. Advice for these two?
Number one, focus on the thing you love the most, and don't ever stop looking at it. And no matter what it is, the subjects of what you talk about may change, but the way you talk about it shouldn't change. You were talking about putting people on the phone and getting them on the air. That's the most important connection. Think about the first time you called a radio station. Do you remember it?
I do.
Was it a pleasant experience?
It was.
Yeah. And so you kind of learn from that. And when you get that beginner listener on the air and take time with them, that is a very important thing, because two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to get a better call out of them than you ever thought, or they ever thought you would. But the second thing is they're going to listen to you forever. So you've got to love what you do by loving the people that you talk to, and it's got to be real. You can't fake love.
Yeah, no doubt.
Scott?
Even when you guys started, what you did was magic. They're on the radio. Man, how cool is that? Well, now everybody can be on video and they can be on audio. But what I learned, even though I've been in years of radio, was the nuts and bolts that these two would do to succeed with a promotion. The engagement that Candy 95 was able to do in Bryan College Station, we still do it, but it's based on the platform of what these two did. So many of the things you've already got is right. What I cannot imagine is that you are able to take that and replicate it in the market you're in now. Because you'd get to see a good percentage of people who listen to you on any given day. Now you don't. You are still able to connect with them, and God love the fact that they'll call you on the phone. So important.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can continue to grow your audience and your demographics continue to be as wide as they are in a market that large means you've learned well, but you continue to have your best practices that you've learned since then.
It is really, it's different. It's also to a large extent the same. I can tell you that in San Antonio, the community of San Antonio is one of the most special places to both of us. An amazing, amazing community, amazing group of listeners. We got to work with some people that were absolutely amazing as well. They're doing a lot of work in the industry and for some good radio stations. Houston is very similar. So a lot of this, I think we've been very blessed to have gone to the places we've gone to that believed in what we were, believed what we were selling. I will say it again. I will always be beyond grateful, more than anything in the business, for starting here where I grew up. And that comes from you guys. It comes from meeting her. None of this would have happened the way that it did if I hadn't grown up listening to the radio stations that I was listening to and the talent that I was listening to, and saying, I think I could do that. That sounds fun. That sounds like something that I'd want to do. And then having someone give me the opportunity to actually hire people and put them on radio stations and try to teach them a thing or two, and meet co-hosts that worked out and won me a ton of awards and things like that. So it's now I will always be the most blessed by the fact that I had the people around me and us that we had and still have.
Right here in Bryan College Station.
Right, yeah, right here. And it's made it. I hope it has made radio better, at least around here for us. Yeah. So, but it's been good.
Roger WWW Garrett, Scott Delucia, Harold Presley, Katy Dempsey, Tucker Young, Frito and Katy. Thank you so much for joining me, because selfishly sharing time with all of you, that's been beyond special. And so thank you for doing local radio the right way.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Thanks, Jay.
You be good.
And be good at it. Brazos Matters is a production of Aggieland's Public Radio, 90.9 KAMU FM, a member of Texas A&M University's Division of Community Engagement. Our show is engineered and edited by a trio: Matt Dittman, Bobby Etheridge, and Jaime Munoz. All Brazos Matters episodes are available on YouTube and on podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. Also on the NPR app and the KAMU website. I'm Jay Sokol. Thanks so much for watching and for listening.